There's so much information out there. There's just too much information.
Yeah.
However, you have to find something and follow it. It's just like you get on a diet, right? If you don't follow that diet, then what's the point of even
Not
starting it?
not going to work.
Yeah.
It'll
So
work if you work it.
exactly. Yeah, you have to follow the steps. And I knew that I was starting from square one, that I had no background. So I was like, well, I got nothing to lose. I'm just going to follow this, and whatever they say, whatever they tell me to do, I'm going to do.
All right. Getting moving, getting going. Beautiful. So as we get moving, as we get going, I just want to let everybody know right now, welcome to the High Impact Coaching Podcast. We are officially live here with Josiah Kauffman, former Navy SEAL, CEO and founder of the Warrior Calling, and obviously the head coach for your SEAL Ready program, where you actually teach people how to become SEAL ready and actually become Navy SEALs. I'm super psyched to interview you. I've always have a fascination with the SEALs myself, coming from a little bit of a military background. But Josiah, welcome to the show.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, dude, I've been looking forward to this day, and I have, yeah, man, I'm just so excited about 2021. I know people have crazy things that happened last year, and dude, 2021 is going to be great for everybody here.
I agree, man. So before we dig into your story, because I think I really want to dig into a lot of what you've done in terms of, after obviously leaving the Navy SEALs, building your coaching business now on the side of your 9 to 5 to be able to leave last month and go full time. There's a lot that I want to dig into there, but let's talk about that for a second. 2020 was a weird year,
dude.
Right?
It was very weird, and I think the name of the game for anybody, entrepreneur or anybody living right now, is adaptability. And I think that the people that can adapt through all these changes and things that are going on, and it's, out of our control really. And we just have to live our life through this, but it's who can adapt in this time. And that's the biggest lesson learned for me over the past 5-6 months as I stepped into to working with you and the team, is that it's just learning how to be adaptable in this time, because that's the people that can do that are the ones that are going to make an impact, really.
Yeah, there's that Howard Thurman quote. He says, the learners will inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves perfectly equipped for a world that no longer exists.
It's true. Right? So true, man.
Always comes back to adaptability.
Exactly. Yeah, man.
I'm sure you got a little dose of adaptability in the SEALs.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all about getting out of your comfort zone too, right? So let's step into that for a minute. I joined back when I was 19, 20 years old, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I mean, my background was not anybody that you would imagine would be a SEAL, right? I was a skinny kid. I was like that. My mom teaches piano, right? And I was just a very skinny kid. There was if you saw a picture of me when I was 16, they'd be like, dude, that kid has no purpose being a SEAL.
There's no way that you're making it.
Well, hell no.
Fitting now that you train SEALs and now you train people to become SEAls. It's like, if I can make the skinny kid with the piano teacher mom be an awesome SEAL, like I can do it for you.
Exactly. It doesn't matter who you are. We can make this happen. And that was one big thing for me, was just, when you find that purpose and calling in your life, and that's really what I help people dig into, is finding that. And what is that? Maybe you don't want to be a SEAL, but maybe you want to train like one, or maybe you want to level up in life. And it's being okay with that and finding what that purpose is and finding what your calling is, and then going all in on that. And that was a big thing, thinking about the last 5-6 months for me, was what is my next purpose and calling in life? I'm not a SEAL anymore. But what does that look like for me? So that's, it's been a big journey for me. Honestly, it's been a big learning experience, especially the past few months.
So let's talk about now, and then let's go back in time. So now you and I were just kind of chit chatting a little bit. You legitimately just quit your 9 to 5, like 30 days ago, pretty much.
December. What was it? December 10th or 11th was my last day at my 9 to 5. And that job, I worked as hard as I could to get it, right? It was a 9 to 5 here in San Diego, working real estate. And I had no background in real estate. I had no background with working with those types of folks. And I got this great job. it was what everybody wants to get. And then the
It's
pandemic
the
hit.
6-figure role. You've got,
Yes.
you have 2 kids, right?
I have 2 kids. Yeah, I have a 5-year-old, and we just had a baby about 7 months ago. So yeah, young family, and I locked in a job, and then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And so as I was going through my job, working from home, it's a good paying job. I wasn't feeling that fulfillment. And
Yeah.
especially guys coming out of the military, which is something we can talk about, is stepping away from the military is one of the hardest things you can do.
Yeah.
And you've worked with folks like this in the
Yeah.
past, but you need to find that next calling and purpose for you,
Because
because you have that.
for that masculine energy for men, like purpose, mission, calling is such an important part of your career, right?
Yes.
It's never just about making money, and especially when you've been in the military and you've had purpose and calling along with
Exactly.
that. So
Yeah, and so I had to find something else for me, and I found my 9 to 5. Right, I found what everybody tries to do when they get out of the military. Is you got to find that job, you got to lock that in, you got to do your networking, you got to step into that, and so I did all the things. There's some great organizations that help SEALs transition. So I did all of that. I worked on my LinkedIn. I did all my networking. I traveled around the States meeting people and putting on the suit and tie. We moved to London or England for about a year after I got out, and I worked at Goldman Sachs in the corporate world. And so I was like stepping into everything I could to find my next calling, to find what I could do, to not, number one, serve my family and make money. And number two, just to find what my next step in life was. And through this past few years, or the past year, really, it's just been, I felt empty, right? I haven't felt fulfilled. And fast forward to December, I made that decision. Obviously, we started working together before that, but it was working through all that and figuring out life, and then making that call and actually stepping into that.
Yeah. Talk to me about like so obviously you left the SEALs at, you said it was 2017?
Yeah. So it was 11 years I served in the military. Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. That's when you make the decision, right? Most people, you staying in for 20, or you're going to get out, and it's right around that 10, 11.
Yeah. So you got out after 11 years in the military, in the Navy, and you get into the private sector. You're doing Goldman Sachs, you're doing other stuff. So you get this like 6-figure role in real estate. You said beginning of 2020, right?
It was the end of 2019. Yeah.
End of 2019.
So, yep. End of 2019, right before everything crazy started.
Yeah, and you're like, obviously at this point you're making money. You've got 2 kids to support. You're living in San Diego, which is not a cheap place to live. I know, because I live there.
Exactly.
So you're starting to make good money. You're being able to support the family. Like obviously the big piece is you're feeling empty though, right? So
exactly.
What started to pull you towards that coaching thing? Where was it?
So especially during my last few years in the service, I was a BUDS instructor. So I was in second phase. I was putting guys through the dive phase. So for 4 years, I did that. That was the last part of my career.
4 years, you were the guy that drowned people,
dude.
And now you're saving people. Fitting.
Exactly, dude. It's a trip, man. It really is. Being in the water, you're literally in the water almost on a daily basis with these kids, right? They're these kids that want to be SEALs, and you are there as the gatekeeper. You are there not only facilitating the process of BUDS and helping these guys figure out who should be a SEAL, but you're also training them, right? You're training them, you're mentoring them. And that piece of being an instructor, the mentorship, the instruction, the training, being a teacher,
you're coaching at one of the most elite levels at that point.
Right. Yeah. And that's where I felt the most fulfillment. It wasn't, I worked hell weeks, right? I helped in first phase. Second phase was where I wanted to be, because that's where they start teaching you, right? That's where you start getting instructed. That's where I wanted to be. That was the background I had from the SEAL teams. I came from the team in Hawaii. We did the mini sub driving. So I had that background of actually going out on missions, subsurface, doing things around the world, top secret missions.
Yeah.
And I wanted to continue with the background that I had. And I wanted to give back to the community. So that's why I stepped into second phase, to bring my diving experience, real world mission experience to these new guys that want to come in and be SEALs. And so when I worked Hell Weeks, I enjoyed it, seeing these guys go through the toughest week of training, and they're out there for, you're literally not sleeping for a week.
Yeah.
And you're getting everything thrown at you, carrying logs, running with boats on your head. You're literally running everywhere you go. Dudes are dropping around you. And what's left at the end of Hell Week in first phase is that core group of guys
Yeah.
that really, really want to be there, but they're not taught anything yet in first
Yeah.
phase. And second phase,
First phase is all about just making sure you can handle it.
exactly, weeding out the guys that shouldn't be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then we start teaching in second phase. And when I stepped on the podium and I started teaching, we had mentorship sessions. We would sit down with each of the guys and the group of guys, each class are 7 weeks long. And I just found that I loved it. I love teaching. I love mentoring these guys. I love coaching them. And so, man, when I left the military, I lost that. Right?
Yeah.
I lost that piece of just speaking into these guys' lives and seeing them grow, seeing their transformation over 7 weeks, seeing when they come in. These guys had never been in the pool before and dove with a mouthpiece and a regulator and tanks on their back. And by the end of it, they're diving closed circuit with rebreathers. They're planning their own dives. They're diving in San Diego and Coronado Bay. They're hitting targets, and you're just standing back and seeing what you've done with these guys over the past 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And that fulfillment that you feel as an instructor is just, it's pride, right? It's pride, and it's like you feel like you're on top of the world. And so I left that, right? I left that behind, and I was missing that, especially when I left in 2017.
Yeah, I think, and it's so interesting you bring that up too, because in my opinion, we were talking about as a masculine energy, the importance of having purpose and mission in your life. In my opinion, one of the most purposeful things you can do is actually helping others, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helping, educating, training, giving, coaching others, really is one of the most purposeful things that we as humans can do. So that's
absolutely.
Obviously missing when you get into the 9-to-5 world, and you know that you need to bring that back, right? Is that kind of what it sounds like?
Exactly. Yeah, it was missing, right? I felt that need, that hole was not being filled. And so I was like, let's figure out how to do this. So on the side, I started an Instagram, a social media, and I was working my 9-to-5. We had moved to England. I got a job at Goldman Sachs, worked there for a little while. I finished my master's degree. I did everything you're supposed to do when you get out. You finish your degree, right? You go work at corporate America.
You go work at some big name corporate America. Yeah.
I did all that stuff that you're supposed to do. I got my connections on LinkedIn, and I built my network, and it just, dude, it wasn't making it for me. It wasn't fulfilling. And at the end of the day, I saw the people in the organizations I was working in, they're making good money. However, the time freedom is not there for them.
Yeah.
They don't have a fulfilling life. They're barely there with their family on the weekend. And it was, well, why did I leave the military? Right. Because I was leaving on deployments and I was gone all the time in the military. Well, a lot of these jobs are doing the same thing, and you don't have that sense of purpose behind you, and you're making money for all these other people.
Maybe you make a little bit more money, but you're giving up the purpose.
Exactly. And that was like, that's why a lot of people go back in after they try stepping out of the military for a few years and it just doesn't work out. They step back in because it's comfortable, right? Number one. And number two is they find that purpose. That's where they feel like they're being fulfilled. And so actually I knew I couldn't go back to service. There's a few things that went down personally in my family, and also the personal decision that I have kids now. I don't want to be gone on deployments for 6 to 9 months when I have little boys, and it's just, I want to be there for them.
Yeah.
Right. So that also, some decisions I made that I wanted to just stay out of the military, but I was missing that piece. And so that's when I started coaching guys on the side, just as a side hobby.
So you started your kind of side hobby coaching business. It sounds like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was probably when I was actually in England. I started social media. I just started posting pictures from my career, some lessons learned on there. And it really was like, oh, I can't start this business until I actually get back to the States. In the end, what was the beginning of 2019 is when I could actually launch this. And so I waited, but I started my social media a couple of years ago, just on the side, seeing what would happen.
So talk me through those first couple of years of kind of trying to build that coaching business through 2019 and 2020. What were some of the things that you did? What were some of the big mistakes that you may have made during that time period? Because I think everybody goes through that it's almost like a gestation period, right? It's like this time period of like really kind of learning and understanding. We make a ton of mistakes. We do a bunch of things the wrong way before we figure out how to do it the right way, right?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I didn't know where to start. I started following
They
you on
didn't
social
teach you. They
media.
didn't teach you that at Buds.
No, they don't teach any of that stuff. They teach you everything to crush life in the military and
Yeah,
dominate the enemy. But as far as like starting a business, oh, that's another thing. These transition programs that help military men and women step out of the service, a lot of them are focused on getting you that corporate job. It's
career. Yeah, they're
networking, all that
focused
stuff,
on
career. Yeah, yeah.
career. Yeah,
And so they're not focused on helping entrepreneurs. Most of them aren't. And so you're kind of on your own, right? You're on your own. So I didn't really know what I was doing. I knew I needed to finish my master's degree.
I
So
feel like there might be a partnership in the future between you and I around this. We're gonna have to talk.
okay. I know I've been thinking about this, honestly. I really have. And this is something it's huge, right? And I even went to a transition program for 3 months. They had one night of entrepreneurship and they basically said, who's got an idea, who wants to be an entrepreneur? We're basically going to stand up here and shoot your ideas down. Is basically what they said. Like you're not going to make it. Is kind of what they're the people
Well,
leading this
that's
program were saying.
helpful.
Exactly. So you don't feel like you can do it. You know,
Yeah,
you're feeling like it's impossible for you.
yeah,
However, I knew that that's really what I wanted to do eventually. I just knew that I needed to step into some job that's going to pay the bills,
yeah,
and I'm going to work my side hobby, side hustle until I could make it, make this thing full time.
yeah,
But I realized as I started that I didn't know what I was doing. I
yeah,
didn't know. I've never done, any online programming. I knew kind of what I wanted to do, but I never had done any coaching online. I've done
yeah,
in-person coaching. That's literally all I've done. I've never done any sales calls. Didn't know how to do a sales call. So I knew I had a lot of gaps in the what I needed to learn.
yeah.
And so I started following a bunch of entrepreneurs online on Instagram. I found you, started following you for a year or so before I actually reached out. But I was kind of bouncing around, man. I was bouncing around from job to job, figuring out life. We moved to San Diego, and then I had to get serious with this.
Yeah. So when you move to San Diego, we get serious with it. Obviously, you make some changes and you start to get focused. What were some of the biggest shifts that you made that really allowed you to get the business up and running? Obviously, you and I just
Hmm.
kind of mentioned, you've had a couple months in a row where you're bringing in, 12-ish K, which is
Hmm.
more than you were in your 9 to 5, and you were doing that on the
Yes.
side. Like you were doing that
Yeah.
completely on the side, like while in a heavy burden 9 to 5, you're bringing in 12K a month. Like, what
Yeah.
were the big shifts that you had to make to get to that point?
Well, I had to treat it like my life depended on it. And
I love that.
so I think a lot of guys they want to do their own thing, or
Yeah.
men and women when they do their 9 to 5, they want to start something on the side. And I had to go all in. And that's one of the reasons why I was looking for a coaching program, as somebody that could take my hand and walk me through the process,
Yeah.
be there when I have questions. And because that's what I knew that I needed to do that. I needed to invest in myself. And you have to be able to take that risk. You have to be able to take that step forward, because you're not going to get anywhere if you don't take that leap. Okay. If you
Yeah.
just try to take safe steps along the way, you're going to dabble in something, you're going to be a hobbyist, but you're really
Yeah.
not going to see impact. And it might take you 5 to 10 years before you can actually quit your 9 to 5. And by that time, maybe you're making more money and it's even harder for you. Your family's locked into where you live, the way of life, and it's harder. So I knew that if this is something I wanted to do, I had to jump all in. I had to invest in myself. We didn't have a lot of money because we had moved from England. We had used all our savings to
Yeah.
live in England. So we moved to San Diego with literally 4 grand in the bank as savings and started my 9 to 5. But we bought a house, right? We bought a house. We had to have 2 cars so my wife could work, I could work. And so we didn't have it. Honestly, it was necessity as well to step into this
Yeah.
new idea that I had of being a coach, an online trainer.
I love that. And I love what you said about like having to fully commit, right? As another San Diego boy, right? Like there's the Tony Gwynn quote. He says, you can't steal second while staying
Hmm.
on first,
So
right?
true.
Like you
Yeah,
have to give up first to steal second.
exactly.
Always stay on first base, right?
Yeah, exactly, man. So it was taking that leap, right? It was coming to grips with, okay, let's do this. Let's make this happen. And it was make that investment and let's actually start, get a coach, right? Train me, teach me what I need to know. And then it was implement, because a lot of people, they buy these courses or they start reading books, they start listening to podcasts,
Yeah.
and it might take them another few years before they actually start implementing, or they just never do it at all, and they don't
Yep.
really take advantage of it. But you have to take action. You have to take messy action. I know you guys talk about this all the time. And literally, if you don't take messy action, you're not going to get anywhere. And so literally my program was built, it's like you jump out of a plane, you build your parachute on the way down.
Yeah.
I started making sales calls before my program was all the way completed and built. I knew what I was going to do. I knew the process I was going to take with these guys through.
I remember that conversation that we had. You were literally like, yeah, like I'm still figuring out this, and this, but I think I just sold 3 people into the program.
Exactly. Yeah. It was crazy, man. And it was like the weirdest feeling though, because I started making more money in this in the first couple months than I was in my 9 to 5. And I realized that this is when you commit, right? Number one, you commit to it, you take massive action, even though it's messy action, and it's following your purpose.
Yeah.
Then it's going to work out for you, right? It is. And you have to take that leap of faith. You have to take that risk. And people, especially in 2020, do not want to take risks.
I think that you're hitting on 2 things that I think are so important for everybody to realize, right? Like we all love, everybody in the coaching space loves self-development. We all love developing as people, but part of it it can also almost become an addiction to information rather than, like you mentioned, like number one, fully committing, right? Rather than just like committing to, oh, this is an idea I want to do someday. It's oh, this is an idea I have to make happen today.
Right.
That's that takes it out of this, like, I'll get there eventually, to like, there is no better time than now. Right. And then also the other thing, like getting out of information and getting into implementation. Because just like you mentioned, there's no shortage of information out there. Like all the answers to build a coaching business, there's podcasts, there's websites, there's blogs, there's YouTube videos, there's everything that you need. There's our Facebook group. Like there's everything that you need to know from an information standpoint. But there's something that happens when you get accountability, get a coach, get the pointed next action steps, and the implementation actually starts. The messy action actually starts.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I mean, you're right. There's so much information out there. There's just too much information. Yeah. However, you have to find something and follow it. It's just like you get on a diet, right? If you don't follow that diet, then what's the point of even starting it?
Not going to work.
Yeah. So
it'll work if you work it.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to follow the steps. And I knew that I was starting from square one, that I had no background. So I was like, well, I got nothing to lose. I'm just going to follow this, and whatever they say, whatever they tell me to do, I'm going to do. And
blind faith. That's my favorite. Josiah, blind faith, man.
It's what it takes, man. It's what it takes. And it worked, right? It worked for me. Started getting on these coaching calls with clients, and I was able to pull in just off my Instagram. I would send out a message, right? I would send out some type of call to action, like, hey, I'm looking for 3 to 5 guys that are looking to train like a Navy SEAL or go to BUD/S in 2021. Reach out to me. I would get over 200 DMs on just off one post, and I only had 5,000 followers. And so I realized that this is no joke, right? This is going to blow up here, and I'm not prepared. I'm not ready. I don't know what I'm doing. I have the passion, and I have the background. I have everything for me, right? But I don't have the skills.
Yep.
And coming from the SEAL teams, you're taught a lot of skills, right? You're taught to train your ass off. Pardon my language, but you're taught to train hard, right? You're taught to train as hard as you possibly can, because you want to put everything in your, home court advantage, right? You want to overpower the enemy in every aspect. And so I knew that that's what I had to step into. I had to step into something that was going to fully prepare me in every way, and get serious with it, right? And coming from the SEAL teams, you have this drive. Most guys in the SEAL teams are all alphas, right? We want to be number one. We want to be winners. But at the same time, you have to have some type of humility, because if you're not humble and you're like, well, I don't know this, and you just want to think you know everything, then that's going to set you back, right? It's going to hinder you. Yeah, it's really dangerous.
Yeah, it's interesting, because like one of the wisest things that you can realize is that you know nothing, right? It's like once you realize and you start to humble yourself and realize, like, I need help, I need to learn more. That's really what gets you there. I love that, man. So tell me, obviously, you and I were kind of chatting a little bit around, your last day was December
11th. Yeah. 11th? December 11th.
Yeah. Yep. You and I were kind of chatting before we actually hopped on live here. And one of the things that you mentioned, which I thought was hilarious and amazing, is you said that quitting your 9 to 5, even though you're already making more money in your coaching business, quitting your 9 to 5 is one of the most terrifying things you've ever done, including all the shit that you had to do as a Navy SEAL.
Yes.
Talk me through this.
Okay. So it's the truth, man. I think what it comes down to is uh, everything that I've been not brainwashed, but when you step out of the military, everything that you're taught to do
Yeah.
is to lock in that job, that next thing for you,
I'm going
lock
to
in that
call it
9 to 5.
brainwashed. I'm going
Yeah.
to say
Okay.
brainwashed.
It's brainwashing. It really, it really
But
is in a lot
we're
of
all,
ways.
right, we've all been brainwashed, from a young age, like get that stable
Yeah.
career, make good money. I was the
Yeah.
same way, right? I was good
Yeah.
at math and sciences. So it was learn engineering, become an engineer. We'll always need engineers, right? So you'll
Right.
have a
Yeah.
stable career for the rest of your life,
Dude,
right?
yes. And I got the cybersecurity master's degree. And
Yeah.
so that's what everybody was like, dude, go into cybersecurity. That's the next hot thing to
That's the
do.
hot space to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got that and I worked at, like we said, I worked at a few different jobs that were they're really great jobs, dream jobs for a lot of people. And, but the scariest thing for me was making that jump. And I told you, it was back in November. I think we had one of our calls and I told you that, you kind of were pushing me to give you the date that I was going to quit my job. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is getting real. Like this is getting really real, really quick.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm making more money in my coaching business, but what if this is a fluke?
Yeah.
What if this is just
What if,
something
what if it
random?
crumbles?
What if it crumbles? Yeah. And so one of the other calls we had after that one was just kind of working through and helping me get through the process of making that decision and seeing worst case scenario. What would you do in this moment if everything fell away and this thing didn't work out for you? You would survive, right? And you would make it work. You would figure it out. And we went through that whole process. And I think that really helped me. However, I still had to call up my boss, give him the 2 weeks notice. And
Yep.
this is the guy that he loves the SEAL teams. Okay. And I did not, he's one of those guys that like almost like a father figure. He was one of the reasons why I actually got a job at this real estate company. And so disappointing him, I didn't want to do. And I wanted to be everything at this company. I wanted to just be that the rising star and all this stuff. And I made that call and it literally terrifying to call him and call the boss man and
Yeah.
to say, hey, you know what? I'm deciding, I know 2020 is crazy and nobody wants to step away from, like, you're stupid if you quit your job in 2020,
Yeah.
right? People are trying to get their job.
You're the idiot who quits his job in 2020.
In a pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I told him, you know what, but here's my plan. This is what I want to do. And I feel this is my calling. This is what I want to do. I don't feel that this is the wrong thing for me to do. And, I've enjoyed working with the company, but I made that call. I made that decision. And yeah, it was literally the scariest thing I've done, right? In the SEAL teams, you're doing a lot of scary things all the time, right? Jumping out of planes. I mean, if you've never jumped out of a plane before, without it, somebody there holding on to you or strapped to you, man, that's a rush. That's a rush. And also diving around the world on deployments where if you are caught, like if your mini sub comes to surface and you're caught and your team is compromised, it could start some type of world war with this with this place, right? This country. We don't know what could happen if you're compromised, because the places we would go are that sketchy. And so of course there's scary moments. However, when your family and your well-being of your family is on the line, it's another level that you have to of risk that you're taking when you quit that 9 to 5.
It's one thing when it's you dying and possibly creating World War III. It's another thing when you've got your family's livelihood.
Dude, I don't, when you say it that way,
crazy,
but that's
true. It's amazing.
True. It's so true, man. And it was a scary moment. However, I knew it was the right thing to do. And as soon as I made that call and you helped me work through those thoughts and work through the process, it was the right thing to do. And I knew I was on the right path. We made that call. You have to take decisive action too. And I think that was one of the things for me. Is like, I know I need to make this decision and take decisive action, because if I don't, and if I wait till January of 2021, I'm just going to be behind, right? I need to start this now. I need to take decisive action. It's all about negotiating up front and finish that negotiation and make that call instead of, I'll just wait till February of next year. Make sure that the year starts off okay. Make sure that I have enough money to get me through Christmas and the holidays. No, if this is the decision you have and you need to make that decision, you have to take decisive action, work through that negotiation up front, pull the trigger and make it happen instead of keep pushing things off, because that's what people do.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, man. I love that. You're speaking my language, dude. So obviously terrifying, but you made the decision.
Yes.
And I think one of the big reasons that when you and I were talking about it was like, we looked at where you were at, you've gotten to a point where you're bringing in that 10 to 12K a month pretty regularly now.
Hmm.
And we're like, you're doing that while in a 9 to 5. What
Yeah.
happens when you don't have the 9 to 5? Right. And it was like
Yes.
and you and I talked about like worst case scenario, let's say Xander's delusional and everything that he's taught me is just all going to crumble in the next 2 to 4 weeks. Right.
Yeah.
And you were like, worst case scenario, I'll figure something out. And like now
Hmm.
you've made a little extra money. You've saved a little extra money because you were making money on the side.
Hmm.
Right. So you're not going to die. Your family's going to be okay, even if
Yeah.
Xander's delusional and spitting lies the whole time. But the upside is insane, right?
Yes.
And I think that's
Yes.
really what we started to focus on. It's like when you
Hmm.
started to look at the percentages of like, we literally just took like a logical walkthrough, like worst case scenario,
Yeah.
this happens, and I'll actually end up being okay. And the chances
Uh-huh.
of this happening are like 2%,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
there's like this whole other 98% of like what is most likely to happen and the really high upside. And it's like, you just can't ignore that stuff, right?
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. And going back to that was I was working so on my 9 to 5. As a consultant, I was working hourly. So I would take my lunch break and use that as my sales call, right? So I would literally be
I
on the
remember you
phone.
telling me, you're like, Xander, I legitimately can't enroll more clients because I
Yeah.
can't take more calls. I don't have
It,
time.
yeah, my schedule was maxed out. I was booking people through the next month, but so I would take my lunch hour and I would do my sales call. I would take another sales call right after work around 5:45. My wife hated me because I have got kids and
Yeah.
I'm doing this over dinner hour, but she's like, "This is what you need to do." So that's another thing is just having somebody in your corner that's
And
like believing
being
in
willing
you.
to have that tough communication with your wife, with your
Yes.
kid, and say, honey,
Yeah.
for the next 2 to 3 months, I'm not going to be the best husband or dad
Hmm.
because I have to
Yeah.
do this so that I can be that dad that's there for our kids.
Exactly. Yeah, and that was a tough conversation, but she's on board with everything, and that's whole another conversation we can have. But yeah, I was working noon hours, and then I would work after I worked my 9 to 5, and then on weekends, Saturdays, I was building programming. I was having group calls with my clients, and then Sundays I would try to keep sacred to the family. We
Yeah.
go to church, we spend time with the family. Some things would bleed over into Sundays, but I tried not to. Try to keep one day where it was like, this is our family time.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let this happen. However, Monday through Saturday we're maxed out with the 9 to 5, and then the lunch hours. Like I would eat my lunch at my desk back on the 9 to 5 at 1 or 1:15,
Because
and
you have to take your
doing
lunch
this.
hour to actually do calls.
Yes. So, but it took that, and I knew that that's what it was going to take, but I was willing to put the work in. I was willing to make it happen. And I think just knowing that to trust the process, and when you see the results, then it's important for you to follow those results instead
Yeah.
of just saying it's a fluke. This is probably just a bunch of BS and this is not going to go anywhere. But as you follow the process, as you keep down that path and you see the results, you see the transformation of the guys you're putting through the program. You start taking that messy action. You see that it's a transformational program for these guys. It started out at 8 weeks. Now it's at 9 weeks. And these guys they want more. I don't have time right now to set up a back end program or anything else besides my core program. And that's okay. But these guys want more.
Yeah.
They're going through this program and they want more. They love it so much that they want to continue training with me. So it shows me that I'm doing something right.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I love that. And obviously, I think one thing to mention, right, is like the tough times end, right? So it's like
Yeah.
if you commit 100%, right? It's like if you don't commit and you don't go for it, you stay stuck in this weird limbo space, which sucks for
Yeah.
everybody. You're working too hard, you're spending money, you're not getting results, and you're not doing anything fulfilled. But if you
Hmm.
fully commit, you leave first base to steal second, then eventually there's a scary time in between first base and second base, but eventually
Yes.
you get to second, right? And I know
Yes.
you just took a holiday vacation with the family where you got to
Hmm.
take like a week or two off or something,
Yeah.
go up north and like actually
Yeah.
get to spend a bunch of time with them, right?
Exactly. And literally I had 2 days saved for vacation time in my 9 to 5. And I looked at our calendar in December and I realized I wasn't going to be able to take our family to Montana to have our family reunion. And it was like, Well, that's another reason why I shouldn't be in this blasted 9 to 5, because I can't even take time off with my family to go on vacation.
Yeah.
And so that was another big reason. It was just like, I don't mind working. I want to work hard. But I want to build my own empire. I want to build my own business and be accountable to myself. And if that's another thing for some people, it's hard for them, right? It's hard to hold themselves accountable and be disciplined. However, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to make this happen, you have to take accountability. You have to take that discipline on, because that's what's going to push you. That's what's going to make you successful. So
Yeah.
if you're not willing to do that, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's like you want to take the 10 days off to go to Montana for your family reunion and have that flexibility. Well, you got to be accountable for the other 300 plus days during the year, right?
Yeah, you just have to. But on the flip side, right, is that reward at the end, or when you can take those 3 days off on the weekend. You work really hard during the other days, and then you can plan in the time you want to spend with your family. And stepping away from the military was, you're locked in this massive corporate world of being in the service, which is amazing in a lot of aspects, but at the same time, they own you, right? They own your time. You have to put in for leave. You have to put in for all these, anything you do. Literally, you got married, you have to put in a request shit to get married. Just things that are crazy, right? So you give away a lot of your freedoms in the service. I stepped into corporate world and I realized it's even tighter, man. And maybe not the request shits, but like, I don't get any time off, you know? And that was a rude awakening for me. So you're going to make some money and you're going to look great on paper, but the time with your family is, your phone's could potentially be going off, when you're on vacation. And it's just, I want to be able to set my schedule. I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to make this happen. However, it's going to provide a lot of freedom on the back end.
Yeah. Dude, I love that, man. So obviously I feel like I could keep talking to you about this for hours, but we'll kind of wind it down to a close here. I want to just ask you a couple of quick things. Number one, what do you think for you personally has been the most valuable skill to getting your business to where it is now?
Definitely getting on learning sales, right? I never have done sales before. I actually I tried doing sales before, more of a door-to-door kind of a thing as a job. And I hated it. But when you find your passion, your purpose, your calling, whatever you want to call it, then the sales is like, you're just sharing, right? You're just sharing with people. And it's up to them whether they take the information, they want to run with it or not. You're just giving them the information. And if it's your passion and you can show them that, and you can be like, I can transform you. I can make this amazing thing work for you. And if you take it or leave it, whatever, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Then you can feel that in your heart that you're doing what you want to do for other people and you're serving people. Then that whole sales piece kind of fades away, and
it falls away. It's no longer selling. It's coaching.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was the biggest lesson for me. I think the biggest thing that I needed to learn was to bring somebody through that process of finding what their problems are and digging into that, and then being able to agitate that a little bit and being like, well, what's really going on? And then providing a solution. And just, it's a very simple process. However, I didn't know how to do that. And so I think that was the biggest thing for me. Number one was getting on sales calls and making them happen.
Awesome. I love that, man. One more question for you around that. What was one of the biggest mistakes that you made throughout your, 2 to 3 year journey of dabbling on the side and then finally really committing and making it happen? What was one of the biggest mistakes you made as a coach?
I think playing it safe early on. I think I could have jumped in sooner.
Mm-hmm.
I think I could have gone all in sooner. I kept waiting for that perfect time, that perfect moment, that perfect month to be making enough money to whatever. I could have started this back in the beginning of 2020, but I didn't. I waited and waited and waited. I knew each month that passed, I knew that was something I needed to do, but it took me a minute to get there.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably something that was the biggest, I guess, downfall, is just waiting too long, right? I could have stepped in. I could have been further.
Yeah, that's dangerous too, because for a lot of people, each month that they wait, it doesn't get easier to be decisive and say yes and commit, right?
Yeah, no. It's harder, man. Because you keep playing games with your mind, and then if you don't make that decision, if you don't negotiate, it's just harder. It really is. You have to commit to it. And you're never going to know all the answers, right? You're never going to be 100% confident. and that's okay. Sometimes you're going to have to take that leap of faith, that step out there, right? And you can't move anywhere if you're a ship stuck in the harbor, just
Yeah.
anchored there. You're not going to go anywhere. You have to open up your sails and see what happens. It's just you have to take that journey. And I think a lot of people are living with unmet potential, right? They have that potential, that they have a purpose and that drive inside of them, but they keep telling themselves that it's not going to work, or
Yeah.
they don't have enough money, or whatever it is.
There's an
And
excuse behind them not making the
yes,
decision to go forward. Yeah.
yeah. And so coming from the SEAL teams, you'd think that I wouldn't have any fears or, doubts or whatever, right? Confidence would be off the charts. Man, it's a real thing, and I
In
have
a
my ups
in a
and downs.
firefight, yes. As an entrepreneur, not so much.
Not so much. But this is what I want to do, and this is what I feel called to do. And so I'm willing to get out of my comfort zone, man. I really am. And I think it's going to serve me in 2021. I really do. I have a long ways to go. I really do. But being here with you and the team and having that support behind me is what I need, right? It's what
Yeah.
I need to move to the next step. And I see the income coming in. It's going to continue to grow, and I have amazing, I don't know, just forecasts for this year for me and this business. It's right now I have all these ideas, right? And I have all these things in my head, and I'm just talking to the coaches. I'm like, what do I do next, right? What do I do? How do I take the time that I have now and implement what I really need to do?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited about this year, man. I really am.
I love it, dude. I love it. Last question for you. What's the coolest thing you ever got to do as a Navy SEAL?
Jeez, that's a tough one, man. Wow. Honestly, I think the just being a part of the most elite platoon operator team, whatever you want to call it, in the world. Like when I was in Hawaii, just be feeling that you are literally the only platoon in the world that can do what you do. The amount that you train to prepare for that, and then actually going out the door to execute, and being in country, being offshore, off some country, and actually doing some national taskings to serve the country, and just feeling that pride, like literally nobody else in the world can do what we're doing right now, and being there and accomplishing missions, just feeling that sense of pride. I think that was one of the biggest things for me, which is being subsurface and
Yeah.
feeling what it feels like to just, man, to be serving your country in that aspect, and just to see the progress you've made, the journey you've made to get there, and to be a part of that and feel something special.
Yeah.
I get goosebumps just thinking about it and being in that moment. But it's kind of an abstract. I have a lot of stories that I can dig into. We're gonna have to do on another call.
We'll have to do another time.
I have a lot that we can talk about.
For sure, man. Beautiful, dude. Well, I'm looking forward to making sure you get more of that feeling in 2021, obviously. But thanks for coming on the show, Josiah. I think this has been super helpful for everybody. Where can everybody learn more about you and the Warrior Calling?
Yeah, absolutely. So the easiest way is, if you're on social media, is on Instagram. The Warrior Calling is my Instagram, and then I have a website, thewarriorcalling.com, and folks can go on there and see what I'm up to. We can book calls there, but Instagram is probably the best way to reach out.
Beautiful, man. Thanks so much for hopping on, Josiah, and for everybody out there. Obviously, if you're listening to this in podcast land, if you want to catch these interviews live on video, you can catch them in our Facebook group. Go to xanderfryer.com/FB group. And for everybody who's interested in getting our help to fully commit, leave first to steal second base and really take your business full time, go to xanderfryer.com/programs. You can check out our programs, set up some time with us to see if we can actually help you get there. Thanks a ton, Josiah.
Yeah, you bet, Xander. Thanks a lot. Take care.